Yes. Again, another Russian way of present. Again, we have to do something authentic. I just don't understand the necessity of the concept of authenticity, or anyway, in Russian world. Whatever. So I have to record some stuff for you as lecture that I cannot guarantee you that you're gonna enjoy. But more or less, is I think the best that I can do is to create some content that you can enjoy. As you can assume in advance, that probably it will be something extremely boring and like some stuff is like no one talks anymore. Or maybe I can somehow convert the idea of the old habits into the new questions. This is always my aim, to understand the world differently. I don't know if I can success on even this recording with a video, and at the same time I am kind of like a terrible in technology. I did some tests about my voice. I hope this is the best way to record your voice, probably, even though you look stupid. I don't know. Maybe I can do like this. This is also like finger. Um, I don't know. Maybe I can put it in my belly like this. This is also looks weird, but anyway. So I'd like to discuss one concept that it's triggered me a lot when I was in academia. I always fascinated about some kind of evolution of words and concepts throughout the history, throughout the well-known history of, let's say, humanity. Um, Even though somehow now I criticize myself because I'm just limited in one way of understanding. It's probably like generally you can say is a Western mindset. But at the same time, still, those works and those understandings from the past can help us to understand nowadays. I just want to emphasize two concepts, two words that we use almost every day in our lives to understand. And first is the individual, second is community. I think two of them in different levels, in different aspects, is quite important for both of us or all of us. Because you can just understand the way of using those words to how we say, to the level of your perception. Not the good way to say the level of your perception, but at the same time, sometimes like the which glasses that you're wearing to see the world, and which is the like the language is the use for understanding the world. I think it is the combination of those two things to understand actually what does any word mean. So I can guarantee you that it's gonna be extremely boring, and it's kind of relief that I can smoke and drink at the same time. I cannot again guarantee that it will be something fascinating or happy to hear. But let's start. So my uh, biggest problem about nowadays that it is ongoing struggle among humanity, that it's not easy to see yourself at the same time. By the way, like it's I never did it before. Maybe there is a way to close the screen and talk by yourself, but it's just I just cannot look at the screen while I was talking because it's kind of, I don't know, schizophrenic way of talking to yourself. I used to talk myself a lot at night probably, but this is kind of interesting. So I cannot look at the screen, so that's why I'm just always looking different sides. Anyway, uh, it seems from the start that I cannot be like a good lecturer. That's for sure. I like to do to the actual person, the face to face, but not, this is kind of weird. Um, yes, let's start. So my idea is to, if we can dismantle those two words into pieces and pieces and pieces, and if we can trace back the meaning of the history from nowadays to the like the early written ages, I think we can also understand the evolution of that concept based on the evolution of humanity itself. So because it's like which is inside or which is outside, or like which is in the part of it or the whole of it, this is a kind of like main question in philosophy, let's say. Also maybe like it's very valid question for every human being, because you know that you're unique, but you also know that you're part of something. So this is like the partial understanding of yourself as a whole entity is kind of tricky. It has some problems while you're saying it. That's why my first way, of course, is like the boring way to just to first dismantle those words, individual and community. Let's start with individual. So of course it's a Latin. It comes from the word original like individere. It's like not dividable, something like this. But now it's used for like the person, let's say in general. And this is something that is like invented in sake of one way of understanding the world. So my plan is to start with like this, and then pass to community, and then try to understand the evolution of two concepts aligned together throughout the history, and what we are facing now. Now, as like you and me, and understand the two concepts, like how it represents any kind of how we say how it represents in our lives. Let's say. Oh, I'm so horrible in talking. Normally I'm good at it, but now I don't know. Maybe I need to drink one whiskey. It's already 7 minutes. No? Okay. So yes, it shouldn't be like this. Anyway, I'm gonna be very very fast. First, there is a one way of using that word is is like defining the human being as a person. Let's say is a person who's can be defined as some stuff that he possessed or she possessed, and when you discover this the first usage of that word as it is, and you understand that it's used and changed in matter of in some kind of prospects of one way of understanding. So all my search about the origin of that word like it comes to one point that is dramatically changed, like how they used before. And the one is comes to like a John Locke. It's this book, his second treatise of government. It's written in 1699, as far as I remember, but it is written a book about after the English Revolution happened in 1688 as a glorious revolution. There was a time in England that the middle class and the upper class were in struggle, and the one that just tried to overthrow itself is like a kind of bird of capitalism, and the capitalism itself tries to control the all the governmental apparatus. And this in this text especially, he chose to use that word as something that now we understand, like the person is consists of his feelings, his thoughts, and his labor itself. It is like a property, as a thought property, or like the property, like concrete property. An individual cannot be separated of those two things. So this is also like a kind of Bible of private property. How you just justify the right of owning property. This is This is how it starts. Of course, it goes back the book ahead before this, Thomas Hobbes, the Leviathan. They just misspell Hobbes, interesting, even though they bought it from England. In this also, like you see this the ongoing struggle among individuals, like a homo homini lupus stuff. That's the a man is the wolf is another man, or some way of understanding. But this is the first phase of the concept of individual as a like as a something that's close to us, for us, for now. And the interesting part about this, whenever you use uh, individual as a word in any text, so are we sure that whenever you use the word of individual, you imply everyone, or you imply in a very specific type of group? So it seems it's so clear that it's whenever those guys use those words, they just implies it's a man, so the man who has a property, man who has a right to rule themselves, a man who has a right to do whatever they want, against the rest of the world. So this is, of course, the early stage of the capitalism, and the capitalism somehow like used as a like a political economical system, but it's every theoretical stuff is just constructed above it. So it's just like something is a fuss. Is that a real thing? They just, those guys, it's because that they having now this happening, it's in their lives, they just try to theorize this new political and economical feature as something concrete and as something that we can understand easily. So that's why they invented this individual as like this. And the community is, of course, don't forget that this comes from the concept of the word of the common. So it's a being in common. So you and I are sharing some values and same side of I would say qualities, and this is like an identification of the individual as a part of another bigger thing. So this is like in and some small and a bigger kind of relation among like you as an entity, as a separate concrete entity, and the one is like a group of entities, and you just find yourself as some kind of like a common stuff between you and them. So it can be like a religious language, culture, all those things. But those guys chose to define this like a common ground as individuals is not like a cultural language or religious basis. Some kind of like what they earn, what they make, what were their positions in their lives, what their titles about. So they were like early stage of bourgeoisie, but they chose the way they chose the word to describe themselves as middle class. So in England we don't have bourgeoisie, we have middle class. So middle class managed to overthrow the king in 1688, and they cut off the king's head with crown on it, and they well, I do have like something is gonna happen after 100 years later in the French Revolution. They already did in 1688. So of course, let's jump to the French Revolution. At the French Revolution, of course, the king is dead, and they just created the one like brand new constitution who defines that who can be citoyen. This is the three major slogans of the revolution: is égalité, fraternité, liberté. So who is equal to each other? So there is a technical definition of it in the first constitution of France. They say that if you are a man, of course, as a guy who has like a 5,000 franc annual income, that means you are like a citoyen. And also you are equal among another type of the guy who described as like this, and this is the equality. So you cannot find yourself superior to that guy. It's because it is kind of like the same thing, more or less. I was just planning to have it in 10 minutes, so I cannot do it in 10 minutes, of course. Anyway, so in this text, in this content, if you just see some the like usage of individual in the text, like before the revolution, after the revolution. If you check in Voltaire and all the stuff, all the words try to imply more or less the same thing that what Hobbes and Locke did. So it's nothing changed. But when it comes to community, its community is this is a new concept. It's created a society. The society is a combination of different level of classes, different classes. Yes, like this. So it seems for me that there is a one need among intellectuals to understand what the meaning of the world meant before and should mean in the future. So the transition of of human intellect also somehow overlaid with the like a transition of humanity. It's understandable, it's expected thing. Let me have a one sip. Sorry, it's gonna take a long time, but you can always skip and just say, "I know," and that just not interested on those things. So this is this is this is like generally how you understand those two words, individual and community. It always defines specific type of groups. So even though after the revolution it affected whole Europe and etc., you know the story. But in Hegel, in this book, Outlines of Philosophy of Right, it's well, in this book, this is the first time that the guy tries to divide two words like community and society dramatically. So the community is something that you chose to be inside, and society is something it's given to you as you born into it. So there is some level of escape from that historical background that you have. You're born into like this, but at the same time, there are some like total shiftment, total change that you are suffering as a something else below this mass. So as an individual, you're born, but if the society is changing, you change in according to that. This is the historical aim, like the aim inside of history. Let's say that you just somehow driven from one position to another position. But again, those words, if you're interested, I can say like one's the Gesellschaft for community and a Gemeinschaft for the society. So if you understand the individual still used as one the one way of understanding as a human being, not all the human beings like again men and bourgeois, let's say generally all those types. But there will be time that there's a guy who gonna use the mankind or humanity or human being or individual as in the manner of what he means. He means everyone. Of course, as you can imagine, the guy can be our beloved uncle is Karl Marx. The favorite book, my favorite notes about the Otto Feuerbach is it's you know it's the latest the last axiom is the philosophers has interpreted the world in different ways. It's the time to change it. But the one before it is that all materialism used the society as the bourgeois society. That's he say he uses Gesellschaft, but normally he uses community. But they just chose to change, chose to use the society to be clear for everyone in translation. But normally he say like society, like bürgerliche Gesellschaft. So whenever he said that whenever you use the concept of individual, you use as a part of bürgerliche Gesellschaft, like a bourgeois society. But it comes to my point to say that is how you say uh, like humanity as total is like as a social beings is as it is like nothing is an extra, nothing is another quality, nothing another I would say qualification that you need to possess as a human being. Just you are like you are what you are. So this is the near future. As far as I know, this is the first time in humanity that someone uses that word to imply everyone. So after he's cracking the wheel a lot in theoretical way, of course, what happened next? I just skip several parts, and then the past a lot, and at the end of the Second World War, just forget about what got things and change. But more or less, still we use the word two words at the same time. There are like some objections about it, like Marx did, and of course there are another type of objections based on what Marx did. That's what how we call this communists and socialists, maybe revolutionaries, who said that humanity could be equal at any level or something. And those guys, against all the odds, they made it in the one country in 1917. Maybe you know that country. At that time, there was one strong paradigm. Now you can just face another type of paradigm. So this is a kind of like a cracking moment in terms of two words, because what does like a Soviet means, and what is your role as an individual in Soviets, and what is the meaning of individual in the capitalistic Western type of society, and also the community itself. Now you have like a two sides of the world. This is like kind of one of the interesting struggles that humanity had, because more or less it's going to end up in the same position. But it's created lots of discussions among intellectuals all over the world, because now we have another paradigm, we have another way of understanding. So they were so excited about it, etc., etc., etc. But there were like some glimpse of criticism among superior Western culture, inside of Western culture, such as intellectual, who define themselves in some kind of like Marxist level, let's say, and they try to understand that why we end up in the World War II, why what we did wrong in throughout all of our modern advancement and everything and so forth and so on, and we end up in Nazism in the Second World War. Of course, the one of the most one of the book that I liked most is the Enlightenment of the dialect of enlightenment. Sorry, the dialect of enlightenment. Of course, they discussed several things, and don't forget what they just compare, like Immanuel Kant and Marquis de Sade. Probably I explained in my previous videos, but this is now is like they start to understand all those things differently. This is now it's like a new phase about individual and the community, because everything is somehow started to change. So again, so there was a one good example who is promoting the best sides of everything about humanity, equality, la 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 in the East, and the West strongly against it, and trying to protect the private property and sovereignty of individual, all those things. And the community, as long as it's controlled, it's okay. When state itself is so powerful, there will be no change, there will be no monetary change, there will be no political economic change at all. that we are like living in a society is so advanced, we enjoy it and stop dreaming about it. So of course humanity cannot stop himself from dreaming. So when this paradigm in the East started to collapse after the war, after the Second War, I think the uh, first first crack it happened in 1958 in Hungary, and when the when the General Zhukov um, shown with his tanks in Budapest. I think this is the first time that this paradigm started to fall apart. This is very important. In this, in that time, and after, of course, in the '68 in Czechoslovakia and all those things, like all those atrocity made by USSR, and all those things, like created another level of problem amongst like Western intellectuals. So save they needed to save the concept of community, a communism from Soviet Union. So this was the task of it. I found it brilliant, by the way. It's because that now, even though we can understand like specific how we say necessities among our lives, that how can we define ourselves. So what is the like what we have as a hope to change the world. So of course Italians like to do like this is the Negri and Michael Hart. It's very late book, but it discussed at the time is the multitude is now we have to understand two concepts as individual and community, not something like directly related to each other or something that we should define. We should define that have to be a working class, it have to be a bourgeoisie, it have to be like a political dissident, and this is ongoing effort, that is desperate effort to define anything that we use all the time. So this definition itself as a concept is a very very important baby of the Western civilization. It's because we cannot stop ourselves to define anything. So, but there are groups in the world, there are people in the world that you can understand that there is no way that we could put the same in the basket. So we have the concept of multitude. We have some values that shared among each other. For example, the value of fair, being fair. So no one in the world, in any culture, that can be silent about a strong guy beating a child, for example. This is the feeling. This is the thing that we share in common, as no one, but not one like one white or black, or not etc. No one. This is the new future. So in '68, of course, there were like huge protests against Vietnam War, the hippie times. All the best things happened. I wish I was there also, but at that time, this even the youngsters stopped believing the new world is between two options. There is no such a thing. There is no meaningful answer based on two paradigma to explain the world. The world itself as it is. So you cannot define yourself as like a part of a huge entity, a society. You are just, if you are together, you are sharing some stuff, and now you have a communities, and you can just jump a bus and go to Nepal and go to Machu Picchu, all those things. It's not like a hippie stuff that I just want to promote, but this is a major shift of way of understanding. So I believe now all the like techno-feudals of all the like the brightest the minds of any kind of dissident people in the world now is sharing or like all copying that the whale is created in May in '68. So at that time in France, of course, a lot of stuff happened, and there was also like another intellectual turmoil in the French academia. Is one of them I love most is Jean-Luc Nancy. I don't know what happened to my book. This is the book is called Communauté des œuvres, is inoperative community. It's translated as English like this. Basically, it claims that so try to define community or individual as someone is is based on what they share among each other. So is there any possibility that we can be together? We can find some stuff in common without possessing some stuff in common. Like for example, being a guy, Muslim, red, I don't know, tall, etc., etc. So without all the qualification, is there any possibility that we can find ourselves in common? So this is the book what I discussed. So it passed to another Italian guy, is Giorgio Gammon, The Coming Community. The Coming Community also, it says more or less the same thing, to understand the community in that direction. So those guys more or less try to save the concept of communism from the previous paradigm. So I think they manage why they managed to change it. It's because it's visible. It is visible in the world that it changed already, and especially after 90s, you're gonna have you had some kind of political movements. It's like Occupy movements, or in the 1994 in Seattle is blocking the World Trade Organization, and so on and so forth, and all those political movements happened in a way, not by any kind of a political party that organized people to protest against something, but it happened by itself. So that means that there is one like silent dissidency among humanity that still exists, still shared in huge number of people, and that's why the guy that you suggest me to read is David Graeber. Found the slogan perfectly, is we are 99%. It's very brilliant slogan to use, and this now is shifted from individual and community as something defined to another realm, another dimension. The dimension itself is strongly condemning to use any sort of category or definition to understand who we are. So we are as we are, so nothing else. And so what we're gonna use those things, and I think it's like to understand yourself as being in whatever. So you are being whatever being. That means it also gives you some kind of relief. You have also some kind of um, like a dream of any Marxist that can have, is like a very universal internationalist way of understanding. Because if you can understand, not understand, if you can show yourself as it is, you know that it is also the same for everyone else. So you are a part of everyone, and everyone is part of all of them. That's like a very stupid sentence, but you know that is you are the part of everyone, but everyone is not anyone. Like everyone is everyone. So this is the major shifting. Oh my god, this is 34 minutes. So anyway, while you have in Gezi Park in 2013 in Istanbul, also there's a group of people who didn't have any sort of given qualities in common. They just came together, and this is the hope that now we possess as any kind of like leftist that can use, is a political the hope that we can have. But I believe there is the silent dissidency among or rejection or objection, but it's in silence phase. Now somehow it's like hidden in among us. And I think this is the only hope that that we're gonna change the world like this. And it's also the best side. That's the old way of conservatism or old way of understanding the world that died like dramatically. So no, like not anymore that superiority or any kind of a Western mindset exists, or not any kind of like Eastern way of thinking exists. It's like a total mess, a total nothingness. In the nothingness, always create some chances to the revolution. Let's close it like this. There's a strong chance to be happy, all of us. Sorry, this is the only thing that I can. Love you. Happy birthday.